Okay, so what do we got today? Well, we got a guitar today that at the time it came out was a failure. Maybe even a huge failure. And I know that's hard to say, but this brand didn't make it. And I think this was one of the guitars they thought would help kind of boost sales. But the interesting thing about this guitar is that feature-wise, it's pretty good. But you know, it just proves that if people can't get past the way something looks, it's just not going to do well. So today we're going to be talking about the Parker PM20, which was Parker's attempt at a more, I don't know, universally acceptable looking instrument, although different, but also 100% wood. So this isn't part of those Parkers that have any kind of composites on them. So with that in mind, let's get into the geeky stuff. This was made in Korea in the World Factory. There is eventually an Indonesian version. There's some versions with different headstocks, but this headstock's the important one. We'll get into that. So this one was the most common of the bunch. There were some burl tops that weren't as popular or as readily available. This is a Babinga top, or quilted Babinga top. Look at that. That is absolutely gorgeous. Now it's a veneer, so it's paper thin, matched to a mahogany body, no binding whatsoever. And really important at the time, beautifully ran to the edge. And why that's important is look at that, it's seamless, just how gorgeous it looks. And at the time, they were doing one of two things. They were either putting binding to hide the veneer, or they were spraying the outer edges. A lot of companies are spraying the outer edges, doing bursts. So you didn't see as many solid tops like this, unless they were stained. And again, they would stain the edges, again, just to blend it out. This one was done just perfectly. It's perfect. It's beautifully, skillfully done. The other thing that was interesting about the guitar was this hardtail bridge with string-through body at the time. So you know, this actually has a purpose. See how they're not put straight across? This was to change the different amount of tension you feel. So when you bend, based on how far this is across the saddle, it kind of changes the way it feels. Whether or not that actually happens to the point where most players notice it, it's probably, I would say, not so much. It's one of those things like if we did an A and B test, I would imagine most players would say that there's not a huge difference. But some players have told me that when I've done setups for them, they do notice it, that it's a massive difference. You have a volume and tone control with a coil split right there, push-pull, coil split on the pickups, and then we have two Parker pickups. There is another version, I think it's called the Pro, and that one came with Duncans and abalone binding around the edges. If I recall, that one wasn't as popular. To say that wasn't popular is really saying something, because this thing was not popular. Okay, so we have a three-way switch up top where Gibson would put it. And of course, because it's a Parker guitar, they had to do this squared off piece right here to give it the aesthetic. Obviously, they were trying to make a body that was more universally accepted, like a Les Paul, but of course retain some kind of Parker vibe. So they did this squared off piece, and of course they put the Parker headstock, but thicker, with these pieces right here of wood, so you could hang it on the wall. You had an ebony fretboard with 22 nickel silver medium jumbo frets, with 6 Grover 18:1 gear ratio tuning keys, and these are the mini Grovers. Of course, there it says Made in Korea. There is a volute right here on the neck for stability. And then here you have what looks like a neck through, but it's a set neck. But again, masterfully done. This neck carve, this cutout right here. We talk about the handshake on this channel. Look at this. I mean, that's about as comfortable it gets. And because they weren't limited by vintage aesthetics, they could actually fix a big problem, which is they angled this horn away. So instead of straight out like you see it on a lot of Les Paul style guitars, it's tilted out. Get it out of the way, angle this side right here, and again, make it very easy to access those upper frets, and it feels fantastic. Now, looking at the back again, we have a mahogany body. I mean, I'm seeing what looks like, it looks like 3 pieces to me. So then we have this set neck, which they carved away, and then the neck is a mahogany as well, and it has a graphite nut. The other thing that's really nice is a lot of people are going to go, well, I hate the headstock, it's ugly. Keep in mind though, for tuning stability, this is fantastic. You don't have the binding issues you come across on the D and G strings when you have 3-on-3s. So this guitar stays in tune fantastically. So you have essentially a Gibson vibed body with a, you know, Fender-esque 6-in-line headstock and all of the premium things you would want, which is graphite nut, high-end tuning keys, ebony fretboard, string through body. The other thing that's really cool about it is 25.5-inch scale. Online, you read a lot that there's some 24 3/4. I have physically worked on at least 24 of these over the years, different iterations, different versions. And I mean, going far as back as 2005, for sure. The first one I ever touched was in 2005. So you know, when I opened my store in 2004, the very first line I ever took in was Washburn Parker, and I remember buying the salesman's samples. His name was Fred, and he had, I think, 4 of these PM's samples, and I bought them because I liked them so much. I recall those being 25.5-inch scale. But somewhere in my head, I think I've touched one that's 24 3/4. So if there's a 24 3/4, let's make sure that we are correct with what we're seeing. And this is definitely a 25-inch scale neck. So we'll keep this here. We'll do this. And yes, that's a 12-inch radius fretboard. So 12-inch radius fretboard, 25.5-inch scale, like a Fender, 6-in-line tuning keys, like a Fender, single cut body, like a Gibson. This guitar is a lot like if you've ever played a Wolfgang, especially like the Wolfgang, and then either one, the PV or the EVH, and the Maxis, or the Axis, where it feels small. Like when you pick it up, it feels like a smaller guitar. That's why I think a lot of people think it's shorter scale. And again, I think there is a version where they did do a 24 3/4 scale. Because there is a PM10, there's a couple, like I said, there's a couple iterations of this guitar. But for this one, this is 25.5-inch scale. They are notoriously known for being light, 6.26 pounds or 2.840 kilograms. So 6-pounder, so super light. Direct mount pickups, which I thought was a cool choice. Some people don't like them. You can add pickup frames. I think you would ruin the value of the guitar, but you can. These have been on a roller coaster of pricing over the 20 years this guitar has been in existence. At some point you could pick them up for $250 used, not even trying, $300. Sometimes people fetch $700. At the height of the COVID, people were trying to get $1,000. I don't know if they got that, but they were getting really close to it. So they're ups and downs a lot. Looking at the pricing as of making this video, you can see that the Pros are pulling somewhere between $700 to $900. Some of the Indonesian ones are definitely in the lower price points at $500. There's a Pro also at $525. And Guitar Center tends to place them around $599 to $649, but it looks like they're not getting the $649. So you can see they're all over the place. I paid $549 for mine used, but with shipping and tax came to $675.76. So, I mean, you know, you just got to look for deals. And this one was in really good condition. It did not include the original gig bag. It did have a gig bag, but the gig bag was a base gig bag and it's kind of like crappy. The original gig bag was a Parker branded deluxe gig bag that you would find the quality being very similar to the SE PRS gig bags. So that was another feature too. At the time, I believe these were $599 and $499 is what we were selling them for back in 2005. So new, you could see it was pretty competitive. Even in, you know, even in that time, that price was really good. Normally we would do some, you know, some sock tests and stuff like that and the setup, but obviously this guitar is 20 years old, so we're not grading the quality of which the setup was. This guitar is set up fine, the action is fine, but we'll double check that right now. Let's play through and just make sure that there's no issues before we continue on. Okay, no high frets, and just again, just so nice to get in there and feel that access point on a single cut guitar. So obviously no high frets, and these frets look like they have not been played, and looking at them, they have not been crowned and leveled at least more than once. And where I'm determining that from is I'm very familiar with this model, and these frets do not seem super low. Obviously, if it's had a couple level and crowns in its life, the frets would feel pretty low. They feel like the guitar itself looks almost brand new. The nut is cut really well, and we could just determine that by pushing down with on the 3rd fret with our ring finger, and we're just looking for a slight gap in between the fret and the string. And you can use a gap gauge, but you know, you don't even need your eyes. You could just feel it. If you feel it kind of pushing down, then you know the nut is cut a little shallow. And of course, if there's no movement on the string, then you know it's laying right on the fret, and that could be cut too deep. Looking at the neck though, the neck is at about 6/1000ths of relief, which is ideal. Let's do some measurements. Looking at the nut, 41.98 millimeters, so we'll call it 42 millimeters, and 1.653. Looking at the 12th fret, we're coming in at 52.36 millimeters, or 2.061. Taking the thickness of the 1st fret on the neck, we are coming in at 21.16 millimeters, or 0.833. And the thickness at the 12th fret is going to be 24.44 millimeters, or 0.962. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got a smaller neck feel to it. I would say Fender-esque, you know, but it's not really like a Fender C shape, but it is a C shape. I mean, I would say if you've played a Made in Mexico or American Standard Strat, I'd say this is going to be close feeling to that. And even this, yeah, it's tough. I mean, so I'm definitely getting that it's the 50s era C carve or the Fender era, or the Fender C carve, but much smaller, plays great, fast. This is not a thin neck. It's not a, you know, like a shredder neck. It's very comfortable, especially with the 12-inch radius fretboard and the frets. Pickups, let's take a look at those. Looking at the resistance at the bridge, we're at 14.31 or 30, which is what I kind of expected. Kind of like that JB higher output kind of pickup. Switching to the neck pickup, we're coming in at 7.90. Again, like the 59, so definitely that's what they seem to be going after. And then looking at the inductance of the neck, we're at 2.94, and the inductance at the bridge, 7.52. And let's look and see how they did the electronics. Let's see what's in there. Something I didn't take notice to. I didn't realize that there was a coil split on the volume pot. So what we have is dual coil splits, so we can coil split each pickup individually. So what we have here is a 500K push-pull pot on the volume, a 500K push-pull pot on the tone control, with the capacitor here, as you can see, for the tone control. There's no treble bleed on this. We do have foil on the bottom of the back cover, and then of course we have shielding paint painted inside, and it comes over the lip so it can touch that foil. And looking at the 3-way switch, we have a typical 3-way switch. Seems pretty good. It's obviously worked for 20 years. It looks original. It's funny to see guitars like this. You know, you see them fail for the aesthetics, but quality-wise, I mean, they're just a great instrument. This is as good as anything out there today at any price point. When it comes to not only quality, but I think the looks. I think it's funny, just like I said, just because they did the squared-off horn and the headstock killed it. But let's go ahead and play it. I'll tell you how it plays and sounds, and then I'll give you some final thoughts. If you missed a detail I covered, or there's more information that you want, you can click the link in the description down below. That'll take you to our website that gives you a detailed sheet that I fill out on every guitar, including the fact that this had a rolled fretboard edge, and the action was 2 millimeters, and the truss rod size was 4 millimeters. Well, I'm going to use a Synergy Syn 20 head. This is a head I just recently bought, and it's a 20-watt all-tube amplifier with 2 EL84s, and it takes modules, and today I'm using the Friedman BE module, and it has a clean channel, so I'll be using the clean channel and then the Friedman channel, and I'm running a NuX Atlantic delay reverb in the effects loop. I should also point out I am running it through a 212 Marshall cabinet with creamback Celestians, and it's mic'd up with a Sennheiser E609, and then I have a room mic. Okay, I'm gonna go to coil split now, and we'll give that a shot. We'll go to the middle. Here's the middle humbuckers, and I'll give you coil splits as well. Now, one cool feature is you can coil split, because they're individual to each pickup, you can coil split the neck but leave the bridge as a humbucker in the middle position. We'll try that just to see if it gets more bite. Yeah, I like that way more. I like the bite of having a humbucker in the bridge. We'll do the bridge in clean mode just to see how it takes, because it is a heavily wound pickup. That sounds great. Let's switch the amp over to the higher gain, and I'll go to the mid gain too, but the higher gain on the amp, and we'll hear the guitar. We'll start with the humbucker bridge. That sounds great. That's got a lot of punch. Definitely reminds me of kind of the punch of the JB, but it sounds a little darker than the JB. Let's go to the neck pickup. We'll check that out, and we'll do a coil split on the neck as well. Okay, one more time, let's switch the amp to the lower gain setting, and I'll take the delay off, and we'll just hear how the pickups sound with the lower gain Friedman sound. Okay, we'll try the neck pickup now. I mean, what's not to like? It's comfortable to play, the neck feels good, it looks cool, I like it. I know some people are gonna be turned off by some of the weird aesthetics like the headstock, but I think the top kind of pops and it looks amazing. Super light, it's one of those guitars that I like to highlight and bring back and say, hey look, let's look at everything, not just the stuff that's currently being put out, but what was done in, you know, what did they did, this is 20 years ago. It is obvious to me that companies were taking chances, trying things. Obviously at that time, Parker was really trying to make something more mainstream. They have other PM models as well. You're probably aware of a lot of them. And this, I think sometimes maybe people got confused because maybe they didn't know this was an all wood guitar. Maybe they thought it was part of the carbon fiber type thing that Parker was doing. Or maybe it was just as simple as the headstock and this horn were ugly and it just was not gonna fly back then. It really is just interesting to see. I'd like to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments down below. Also, two things: whether or not you like the guitar, that I'd like to know. And also, do you like doing deep dives of going back to some older guitars, even if those guitars aren't available anymore, just to see what they did and get specs of things outside of just the newest guitar thing. As always, I want to thank you guys so much for supporting the channel by hanging out to the end. And as always, I want to thank you for your time. Till the next time, know your gear. If you're learning something or having a good time, don't forget you can subscribe for free and help this channel. Or for $10 a week, you can join me on Patreon for weekly guitar clinics that work out to about $2.16 each.